The movie begins with Dan Morgan, a car salesman in Buffalo, New York, persuading a customer to buy an automobile. After a successful sale, he is informed that he is the salesman of the month, and while the receptionist offers to take his photo, he brushes it off and leaves in a hurry. Dan drives through a modest suburb on his way home, greeting all his neighbors before pulling into his driveway. He walks into his wife Jessica, arguing with their daughter Nina about her choice of college. Dan hands his wife flowers as it is their anniversary. Nina and her brother Kyle fight over the babysitting role since their parents have to go for their anniversary, but Kyle insists he has to meet his friend, Samir. Nina half-heartedly agrees to watch over their baby brother Max, and Kyle goes to Samir's house. He pays to use Samir's garage for gaming since his parents made him quit. Dan and Jessica then attend a carnival for their anniversary, a tradition they keep every year. Before going on a roller coaster, they discuss their concerns about their children. Jessica also subtly complains about Dan's lack of spontaneousness, noting that she wishes they could travel sometime and do things a little differently, other than following a routine day in and day out. Dan, on the other hand, seems satisfied by the system the family operates on, saying that it makes it convenient for the kids. After the roller coaster, their private moment is interrupted by a bystander who takes a photo of them. Dan confronts him, but the young man posts the photo on social media and humiliates him. The following day, Jessica meets a travel planner named Gwen in the gym. She engages her about her family and complains about Dan's reluctance to travel. Gwen tells her that she is in Buffalo to find her ex, and then offers her her business card in case she ever needs to travel. Meanwhile, Dan is out shopping with Max when he is attacked by a stranger who had been following him. They fight through the aisles and cause chaos in the store. Dan manages to overpower the attacker, all while Max is strapped to him. Dan then races home, retrieves a duffel bag with ammunition and a huge sum of cash from a secret compartment in the stairs, and then packs a few belongings for his family. He then calls Augie, an old friend, and asks him to make fake passports for him and his family. Dan checks his family's planner and establishes the location of each of them. He goes to the journalism club to get Nina, but is shocked to find out that she quit 3 months ago. He also discovers that Kyle is not a chess club member and finds him gaming in Samir's house. Insomuch as his children's double lives anger him, he has to go get his wife as he is being followed. Jessica is surprised to hear that they are going on holiday to Las Vegas on such short notice, but gladly welcomes the idea. Dan's family is oblivious to the fact that they are being followed, and Dan tries his best to keep his family out of harm's way. After finding a tracker in his car, he puts it in Hal's car to throw off the people chasing him. As they leave Buffalo, Dan is compelled to throw away their phones to avoid being tracked on social media. They continue their journey using physical maps and enjoy their road trip. Back at their Buffalo residence, the man who is after Dan, Mr. McCaffrey, ransacks their house and instructs his crew to do everything in their power to find them. As Dan drives into the night, he notices that he is being followed by a couple of bikers. To avoid waking his family, he connects his family's headphones on full volume and starts shooting at the assailants. He skillfully drives as he fights them and gets his family out of danger. He stops driving the following morning when they arrive in Iowa. While in Iowa, Nina suggests that they go visit Southern Iowa University. As they walk around campus, Jessica is dared to do a keg stand where she impressively showcases her Olympic-level track and field skills. They then join a campus tour, but Dan gets suspicious of a German man on the tour. He then realizes that he was mistaken, but is immediately attacked from the opposite direction. Dan fights the mercenary in the biology lab as the campus tour continues in the next room. Dan manages to fight the attacker off and rejoins his family for the tour. Nina then goes to see her boyfriend Trevor, but is heartbroken to find him with another girl. She goes back to the car, and before they leave, Dan teaches her the Kyusho-jitsu martial arts skill, which she uses to get back at Trevor. The family then proceeds with their journey while enjoying the trip. As Nina takes over driving from her dad, she hints at rejoining the journalism club. Dan encourages her to only do it if it's what she wants, and he recalls with pride reading all the articles she wrote in the past. Later that evening, the family checks into a hotel where Dan and Jessica enjoy each other's company. The following morning, Dan tries to understand his son's love for gaming and questions his Killboy stage name and personality. Kyle explains that he loves being Killboy, noting that he is good at it and wishes that his parents could understand. They then go head-to-head on a laser tag game, single combat. Dan is impressed by his son's skills, but still beats him, then cheers him up and tells him he is proud of him. The family then proceeds to Vegas after breakfast. On arrival in Vegas, the family checks into a luxurious suite. Dan promptly meets Augie, who gives him the passports. Augie is also shocked to find out that Dan had not yet disclosed his past to his family, and they had no idea that they were on the run. Dan heads back to the suite, where he picks up his wife as they go for dinner. Dan leaves clear instructions for the kids not to leave the suite under any circumstance, but they immediately disregard it and hit the streets. They then end up in the HyperX arena, and some gamers recognize Kyle as Killboy. At the dinner date, Dan struggles to explain to Jessica about his past and why they were on the trip. Kyle joins the HyperX final round, while the parents place bets at a casino. The parents then return to an empty hotel room, where they are attacked by 3 armed men. Dan sets 2 of them on fire before shooting them. One other man holds Jessica hostage and threatens to kill Dan's family, but he throws a knife at him, killing him instantly. Jessica, who is now in shock, goes to HyperX to look for her children, while Dan struggles to explain. At the HyperX, Kyle has just emerged the winner when Dan and Jessica come to get them. Dan tells his kids that they have to leave the city since men from his past life are after him. Kyle and Nina take it as a joke when their father tells them that he was a covert assassin 18 years ago, until another mercenary starts shooting at them. Jessica takes the kids as Dan engages with a woman who is shooting at her. The kids are in disbelief after they see their father, a regular family man, handling a gun with so much prowess. After getting to safety, Dan tells his family everything. He tells them that his real name is Sean, and after his mother died when he was 4, he was brought up by a violent father. After turning 18, he joined the army, and due to his impressive combat skills, a man named McCaffrey recruited him to a special program. In this program, they assassinated terrorists, warlords, and any criminals that the government could touch legally. However, McCaffrey turned the elite squad into mercenaries for hire to the highest bidder. Once Dan found out, he exited the program, but McCaffrey has been searching for him ever since. After Dan tells them the truth, he hands them the fake passports, but they all reject them, calling him a hypocrite. Jessica is also disappointed that her husband of 18 years could not trust her enough to tell her the truth. Jessica calls Gwen to plan her travel and takes the kids with her the following morning. She tells Dan to put his affairs in order and to stay away from them. Jessica and the kids arrive at an airstrip where they are welcomed by Gwen to a private jet. As soon as they are inside the plane, Gwen reveals that she was part of Sean's life and that she only got close to her so that she could win her trust. McCaffrey then calls Dan on his cell and tells him that he has his family. He tells him to go meet him if wants to see his family ever again. At the meeting point, Dan is met by an old friend, Spiros, who is accompanied by several armed men. Spiros takes Dan to meet McCaffrey, who is waiting with Gwen. McCaffrey introduces himself as Dan's father to Jessica and the kids, which Dan had failed to mention to them. McCaffrey then makes Dan a deal that he abandons his family and goes back to working for him, or McCaffrey kills his family there and then. Dan agrees and his family is escorted out by Spiros. While in the elevator, Jessica uses Max's soiled diaper to push Spiros out of the elevator, after the family decides to go back and support their father. Jessica and the kids go back and find Gwen and Dan in a compromising situation, but Dan uses the Vulcan neck pinch on Gwen, which makes her unconscious. As they tie up Gwen and McCaffrey's tech guy, Dan profusely apologizes for all the lies and the pain he has caused his family. Kyle takes control of the drone as Dan heads down to face McCaffrey and his crew. Jess and the kids go to the rooftop, where Kyle uses the drone to guide his father on the location of the mercenaries. Dan engages McCaffrey's men and successfully neutralizes most of them. Gwen then regains consciousness and heads to the rooftop, where she takes on Jessica. Jessica is clearly no match for Gwen, but she does her best to protect her children. McCaffrey shoots down the drone, making it difficult for Dan to navigate without Kyle's help. Gwen also overpowers Jessica and Nina comes to her mother's rescue. Jessica pulls herself together, but Gwen holds her back again. Determined to protect her family, Jessica, with her past track and field skills, uses a broken bamboo as a javelin to impale Gwen through her chest. The family then rushes to find McCaffrey, about to kill Dan, but Nina buys him enough time to come up with a plan. Dan hits him with a rod, rendering him unconscious. The family is then reunited, and they happily walk out of the building together. 6 months later, McCaffrey is arrested after Nina releases the story about him running an illegal covert paramilitary group that had been conducting high-profile assassinations for years. In the present day, Dan runs his own security company, while Jessica works as a track and field coach. The movie ends with the family boarding a minibus for a road trip to Stanford.